Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Here I am inside the project file, and the first thing that you'll have to do is import a logo file. So to do this, we can double click inside this empty space over here in the project window. So just double click and then navigate to your logo destination and double click to import a logo file like so. So now inside this edit folder right over here, there's a holder 1 and a holder 2 composition. Let's start with holder 1, which is the one in the beginning of the video. So double click to access this composition. I'll go ahead and just grab this previous layer here and just delete. And now I can simply drag my new logo layer inside the composition like so. With this logo layer selected, I will press S for scale and just rescale this and readjust it to fit inside the bounds of this composition. Note that whatever changes you make to the transform property, so the scale or the positioning of the logo inside this holder composition, all of these changes will apply in the final render. So all that to say is that the scale is important inside this composition. So whatever scale you choose here will be translated in the final render. So let's settle with this scale for now and go back inside my render composition over here, which you can also access through your render folder if you double click. And let's take a look. So this is how my logo will look. Let's preview a different frame here. Alright, so let's say that maybe I want to have the logo be a little bigger, so I'll go back inside the holder 1 composition and just readjust the scale here. Just make this slightly bigger and go back. Alright, so I like this better and I'll keep the scale. Inside this render composition, there's a logo layer, and if you go up here where it says Effect Controls and press F3 on your keyboard, if you don't have this window open by default. So here are some of the changes that you can make to your logo and how the light affects it and the texturing. So first is the logo color. Now I recommend that you use the default color that's on, so this light orange, but if you want you can choose, and you can see how different colors will look. And you can even darken the color or desaturate the color if necessary. So this will also depend on what kind of logo you're using, but usually the default light orange that's already here will probably be good for most of the logos. So now we have light intensity and sorry, so if you just change the value here, of course it changes the intensity, so you can make this either darker or lighter. So again, this is depending on your logo and your preference. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first option here. So this is the first layer of texture, and this goes from 0 to 100. So if I decrease this, you can see that the base texture gets sort of like eliminated. And you can increase the influence of the texture, again depending on what kind of logo you're using. So this can go only to 100. If you go further than 100, any changes, it won't add any changes to it. So this clamps out to 100. And also the highlight and all of these other settings as well. So the highlight is this. Let's see if I increase and decrease this. So if I set this to 0, you can see that there's no beveled edges. So this basically takes the contrasting parts of your logo and sort of like pulls them out a bit in 3D. So if I set this to 100, you can see now that the contrast is applied like fully, and it's also, you can see that it takes away from the texture. So usually this should be a value roughly around 50, I would say, or maybe higher. So like I said earlier, this depends on your logo. And there's a third layer here of texturing, and this is the damage. So if I set this to 0, you can see now that there are no damaged areas. And if I set this to 100, there's like the full damage. Obviously this is a little bit too much, so I'll just set this back to 25. Again, this is up to you. Even a value of 15, you can see that really adds a lot of depth, and just layering the texturing will help create a little bit more realism. Finally, there's a bevel option here, and if you take a look at the edges of your logo, as I increase this value, you can see that it softens, sort of like the edges here, or you can remove this entirely, and now it's just simply straight. Usually a low value here between 0 and 10 will be good, so I'll just leave this as 5. So these are all of the options for the logo. Alright, and finally the only thing left to do is to go inside this holder 2 composition, so just double click to access it, and here is just a simple text layer which you can double click and change your text. So simply change your text. You can even add your logo image inside this composition as well, and you can format this however you want. And whatever you place inside this composition will be in the final look. So if I go back to my render settings and choose a frame here, you can see that this is the final result. Alright, so these are pretty much all of the settings and everything you need to know. After you've made all of your changes, you can go to composition and pre-render, and inside custom AV over here you can choose your format. Usually I go with H264. Inside format options, you can increase your bitrate for increasing the quality. Alright, and then hit OK, and don't forget to select audio output as well. If you want to export it with the sound effects, hit OK and then hit render, and that's pretty much it.